So, hello everyone, welcome, and thanks for joining us today for Nikky Lyle Creative Presents with Industry Leaders, where today I'm joined by Vini Vieira, who's Creative Director at Bulletproof. So Vini is a strategic graphic designer and lettering artist with 18 years experience in branding and packaging, and he's worked with a fantastic mixture of clients. So today's talk is going to be a bit different. Vini's actually got a presentation for us that he's going to go through. So how we're going to structure it is Vini's going to present that to us. I've got a few questions for Vini, and also feel free to tag us on social media as well so we can spread the word about all the events. So yeah, over to you, Vini.
Hello everyone. Good to not see you, but at least your names on the list here. I'm gonna share my screen with you now.
Yeah, that's working.
So as Nikki said, I was really glad that she invited me to do this, to have this conversation with you guys. It's something that I'm quite passionate about, you know, in terms of helping designers and nurturing designers and talent. So what I decided to do here is put together, it's a quick, very short presentation. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget anything that I would like to say to you. It's a bit of an introduction to myself, to Bulletproof, and then we go into some tips for how to build a portfolio. So if Nikki has any questions, just interrupt me, feel free to, and ask questions. So, of course, hello. We kind of covered that part already. I am originally from Brazil, so that's why the funny accent. Against all the stereotypes, I am terrible at playing football, and I don't do samba as well. But I do think that there's a big relationship with the fact that I'm from Brazil and the way that I treat design and the way that I face the challenge that we have when doing design, which it's Latin blood, so a lot of passion goes into it. I have been in the UK for 8 years now, and for 7 years of those 8 years, I have been working at Bulletproof. I started there as a senior, and now I am one of the creative directors there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Bulletproof because I think it kind of relates a lot to the way that I work as well, and what I'm looking for in terms when I see a book or when I interview people. So Bulletproof is 21 years young. We are around 200 people now. We are a strategic brand design agency, and we are independent. So Bulletproof is not part of any big corporation, which it's quite important for the way that Bulletproof behaves and the kind of work that we do as well. We have office in London, New York, Singapore, and Amsterdam, and this needs updating because we just opened Sydney as well, which is quite exciting.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really exciting. But the main one is still London. It's where it all started. But we work together quite a lot, which is really interesting. They are not like separate business. We collaborate quite a lot between the offices. We know everyone that works in the other studios as well. So it's quite interesting. Mm. And there are 3 core beliefs that really defines Bulletproof and what we do there. And the first one is the idea that great idea could change the world. And we do believe in the power of design to change behavior and to change how people think. And I think that's key for everything that we do there. And this is super relevant for everything that we're going to be talking here, which is we really believe that people make the difference. So Bulletproof is unique because of the combination of different cultures and different backgrounds that we have. And the idea that we are constantly collaborating. It doesn't matter if we are in a different space, in a different office, across the globe, or even now with everything that's happening, everyone working from home. It's that collaboration and the different mix of people that makes Bulletproof special. And I really like this idea, which is the concept of staying naive. So we do have a big wall in the studio with pictures of everyone when we were kids. And this is essentially to represent the fact that we don't know everything. And so we are constantly open to learn new things and to be curious about things and, face challenges with naivety. And I think that's when we get the best ideas coming across.
This was one of the standout things I remember about Bulletproof, because I've been to so many different offices, as you could imagine, hundreds over the years. And I always remember this about your reception as you go, and just the lasting impression, really. It's really sweet. Is that you?
That's me in the bottom right.
In the bottom right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is essentially, in a nutshell, what we do at Bulletproof. So we do brand design, we do packaging design, we do comms, production, visualizing. Motion graphics has been quite big in the past couple of years, and I think it's going to be even bigger now. And we have a structural design team as well. But I put here in separate boxes, but all of those things work together, and we do work together on everything that we are doing. So it's really, like I said, it's very collaborative. But at the center of everything that we do is the fact that we are constantly looking for the big idea, and that's what matters to everything that we do at Bulletproof. This is just a very quick snapshot of some of the projects that we have been working in the past couple of years. So the kind of clients that we work at, it's quite broad as well. It goes from premium spirits to chocolate to crackers to FMCG. So it's quite a broad spectrum of not only clients but categories as well. So I have been working mostly with Diageo, Heineken and Mondelez. So projects, for example, Green and Blacks and Cruzcampo, a little bit of Il Senti. Those were some of the projects that I worked on. I imagine that you have seen the Cadbury redesign that it was just launched, which was quite a big deal for us. And it's all over social media if you guys want to have a look. But I think this kind of showcases a little bit of what we do. And I think the important thing to highlight is it's not just packaging, it's thinking about the brand as a whole, it's thinking about the whole brand world and where this brand lives and breathes. I'm showcasing packaging here, but it's a lot bigger than that. And of course, in order to do the best work, we are constantly looking for the best people. And I imagine that some of you already know this, but we have a graduate scheme that's called Fresh Meat. And the idea of the Fresh Meat program, which I think started 3 years ago, I believe, the way it works is we go to I think 5 different universities. We do workshops with them. We give them a briefing. We introduce Bulletproof, and then we basically gather all the work from the students. We have a judging panel. We let the whole studio vote for what concepts they think are working better. We have like awards ceremony night at Bulletproof. This year we had to change things a bit, and I'm going to talk about it. And the winner actually gets not only a placement, but a cash prize, which it's really cool. This year we had, like I said, we had to change things a bit. We still had time to go to the universities and do the briefings with them and do the workshops. We actually open up to every university that wanted to take part. We didn't go to all of them, but we made the briefing available online so every student could take part. The only thing that was quite different this year is that we were not able to do the portfolio reviews that we usually do with the kind of best students that we see from the lot. And we weren't not able to do the award ceremony. So what we did was we did quite a lot of virtual, very much like this, portfolio reviews, which was quite interesting as well, and it worked really well. So I think that is a learning from us moving forward, that if people, sometimes it's quite hard for the students to get to London, maybe we're going to be able to do that virtually. So this is quite big at Bulletproof. We really believe in nurturing people. We have people currently that are design directors, so they're very key to the studio, but they started straight out of uni and they started as juniors. So we really believe in investing in people, and I dare to say that a lot of some of our best designers come from straight from uni, and I think we have some really interesting talents there. So it's very important for Bulletproof. And I think today they're going to be posting the winners for this year's program. So keep an eye on Bulletproof's Instagram today, because I think they're probably going to post the winners today. And then we go into what makes a killer portfolio. And I think it's important to say, this is, of course, my view. Everyone that you ask this question, they will probably have a different answer. This is a list of things that I look for when I'm looking for through the work or when I'm interviewing people. First thing to me is think about where you would like to work. I think that to me is the best starting point. Make a list of what agencies do you think you will be the perfect fit for you, because I think it's not, let's face it, it's not easy to put together a portfolio. People need motivation to do this. It's not straightforward. So I think if you keep in mind what is the top agency that you would like to be working at, it's a pretty good motivation for you to focus, and it's working towards your dream. So I would start there. And the other thing is, not every agency is for everyone. I like to work at Bulletproof. It might not be a good fit for other people, So think about, do you see yourself working at a big corporate studio? Do you see yourself working at a very small studio doing a bit more like niche projects, or something in the middle? So I think it's a very good starting point for when you're thinking about putting your book together.
You're so right there, Vinny, because that's the advice that I always give when I give out portfolio consultations. I ask people, where do you want to go? Yeah. Because there's so many different areas of graphic design, and you look at those dream agencies you want to work for, and you start tailoring yourself really.
Absolutely, yeah.
The route. So yeah.
And then on the back of this, do your research. It's so easy to find out about the company and about the studios currently through LinkedIn, through Instagram, not just the work they do, but also the culture. Culture is very important. But keep in mind that if you're going to work 8 hours a day for 5 days a week on this place, you're probably going to spend more time there than with your family and friends. So it needs to be a good fit, not just related to the kind of work that you're going to be doing, but also the culture. And I think once you do your research, that is really going to inform you what is the best way to put your work together and put your book together, down to, I don't know, the order that you're going to organize your book, to the tone of voice you should be using. So some agencies, I imagine that you can be a lot more casual when approaching them. Some agencies are a bit more corporate, and they wouldn't really appreciate a casual tone of voice. So I think that's really important as well to do. Keep it concise. So I don't like, in terms of number of projects, I don't like to say, oh, you need to have 10 projects on your book, or you need to have 3 projects on your book, because I don't know how many strong projects you believe you have. So that is the key to me. I think it's maybe it's less projects, but the best projects you have, the strongest ones that you have. And keep it concise, think about how long you're going to have to share your work, because the ideal thing is that you're able to talk through the work that you're doing, but not being, not rushing, not feeling out of breath. And that's something that's really important as well. you need to leave time for a chat, because it's great when your work is amazing, but a lot of people like us, we do think about, it's the personality a good fit? Do we think it's going to work? So it's only through a chat that's going to come through. So leave time as well to talk to the agency or the person that you're that's reviewing your work. Make sure that you ask questions as well, that you leave time for ask questions, so it's not an hour and a half of you just showing work, that you leave time to let your personality come through as well.
One advice I always give is half of it's all about you and your work as a creative, and the other half of the interview is all about the company and how do you fit into the company.
Absolutely.
And making sure that additional 50% is you've done your research, as you say, and you keep leading back to this project I worked at. It reminds you of that you did for Bulletproof. And just that alone can impress an agency. I don't know if you feel this when you're hiring, Vini, but it shows them that they actually know what you do. That's a big part of it.
Absolutely. The amount of times that we like to talk about Bulletproof as well, right? We are more than happy to answer questions and any doubts that the designers have when they come talk to us. But it's always refreshing to know the person knows a little bit about us already, and they did some homework on us. So yeah, totally. And then in terms of how to organize your book, I would always say start with a bang. Think about what is the strongest project that you have there that is like bang, we're not going to forget it, but also try to finish with a strong one as well. So imagine that I think that's quite a good analogy. Imagine that you are in a concert. I'm pretty sure the band or the artist will start with one of the biggest hits, and they will finish with one of the biggest hits as well. So think about how you're going to start strong and you're going to finish strong, because it's that sense when you leave a gig and you go home, and probably the one thing that it's going to be in your head is the last music, and that gives you a quite good sense of what just happened, and you're going to be thinking about that for a long time. So I would say start with a very strong project, but finish with a very strong one as well. And of course, think about what you're going to have in the middle. Try to keep the pace and try to keep the interest, because I think this goes back to researching the place you are sharing your book as well, in terms of if it's a packaging agency, try to organize your work in a way that you're showing a lot of packaging work at the beginning. So the person who is reviewing your book is still interested. So I think it's key, the way that you organize your book and the order that you put your projects, it's key to grab people's attention. And I think that's where the research and learning about the agency, it's key as well, because it almost like tailoring a little bit the portfolio to each agency that you're going to visit, if they are different. The other thing is, I talked about this in terms of Bulletproof and the fact that we are constantly looking for the big idea. And this is what we look for when we see a book as well. So it's all about, really strong work, really iconic work, and really strategic design as well. So it's not just about making it look good, but we're always gonna ask, what's the concept behind it? What is the strategy behind it? Because I think it's the nature of a designer being strategic, right? You even introduced myself, because I probably wrote that. I'm a strategic designer. Every designer needs to be strategic. So that's something that we always question as well. What is the big idea? What is the big concept? And when the idea is really, really strong and it's really clear, you don't really need to write a lot about it. And that is something that a lot of people do. They write pages and pages talking about the concept when they are sharing the portfolio. Reality is, and I'm sorry to disappoint, but we don't read that. We are constantly focusing on the pictures. And if the concept is strong enough, we don't need to read the explanation for the concept. So yes, put some information there. We need to, have some kind of introduction about what the project is, but don't spend ages trying to sell the idea by writing, because if you're having to write all about the idea, it means that maybe your design is not clear enough, or your idea is not coming through enough. Again, for example, if you think about a packaging design, you're not going to stand next to the pack on the shelf trying to explain to the consumers what the idea is. So try to be very succinct when you're describing your idea, because I believe that your work should do the job of selling what the concept was to begin with. And also be proud of your work. If you selected that work to be in your book, make sure that you're showcasing it with pride, and that you're using, strong images, big images, very impactful, especially when you transition from one project to the other. Just make sure that you do whatever you can to highlight your ideas and highlight your projects on your book. And that's why I really like this idea of make your concept sing and dance. And there's so much out there that you can research and you can learn from. So this is not Bulletproof, for example, but I think it's very valid to see what other agencies and other designers are doing to showcase the work, because I think we can learn a lot from it. And not even knowing a lot about this project, I can tell just by the way that they are showcased. For example, Olipop, because of the illustration in the background, it feels really fresh, it feels really modern. The Domino's pizza, it's all about sociability, right? It's all about sharing pizza. It's all about highlighting this idea of having two pizzas that make this domino piece. And again, I didn't work on these projects. I didn't read anything about those projects, but I get from the images that they are using. The Amazon logo is all about, the smile, bringing a smile to you through a delivery. I don't even know if that mug is real or not, if that exists or not. And that's important as well. You are allowed, when you're putting your book together, to create different applications, even if the client didn't actually execute them. But think about ways of how can you make your work a bit more exciting, even if the applications are not real, but things that would help you sell the concept. And to be fair, there's so many very accessible digital mock-ups available currently that it's very easy to make your work look really good and really well executed, even if you're not a professional photographer or a visualizer. I'm not a professional photographer or visualizer, but there are ways of making your work look better in a way to highlight your big idea and highlight the concept.
That's a really good point as well. Like, I know whenever I take on briefs for like packaging designers, clients always say, we love to see concept, hand sketching. We want to see the work that didn't make the final cut, because, well, people appreciate certain brands have guidelines and rules in place where they're not going to go for the most creative idea, but actually the agency wants to see what did you put forward and what did you suggest and how do you think. And I think the Amazon mug is a really prime example of a designer being creative in how it could be conveyed, even though it might not be real or that was final.
And it doesn't really matter, right, if it's real or not. It's selling the concept, and I think that's the exciting part of it. And I think going back to your point is, how did you get there? How did you get to the big idea? So this is something that it's key for me as well. It's what was your thought process to get to that idea? Did you sketch? For example, at Bulletproof, we always sketch, right? So it's one of the first questions that we ask. Do you sketch? Can you share some sketches with us? Because we like to see how people think. And I think by showing just the final result of a project, sometimes it's not, maybe it not reflects your process, and it might not really even reflect where you would like to have gone with that project. So I really think it's interesting when people share sketches, when they share reference, when they share mood boards, because sometimes maybe the interesting part of that project is going to be the messy bit in the middle, which is the creative part, and not the final result that we're going to have. And sometimes we do, when we go through sketches with people, with candidates and other designers, sometimes we do find better ideas and better concepts on the sketches, and not the ones that, I don't know, for some reason they were directed by the client in a slightly different way. So I think it's really important. And if there's something on your process that you really believe that, I don't know, there is one route that you thought that was so much better than what the client went for, show to us, share that with us, because I think that, again, it could show a different side of your work as well. The next thing is be clear on your role on the project. And maybe this is more when you're having an interview, but there's nothing wrong in being part of a team working on a project. Don't assume that if you're sharing the work, you are responsible for the entire project. I'm a creative director, but I would never be able to claim that I'm fully responsible for a project, because that's not the reality. There's so many people working with me on a project. So it's something that we always ask as well. What were the circumstances that the project happened? Were you being directed? Do you have other designers working with you? And be honest, it's not, because I think sometimes we have books and we receive books and we see, for example, a big brand redesign on a book, and we get really excited. But then when we talk to people, it's like, oh, they actually worked on one of the flavors, and it was just a rollout. So they were not really responsible for the idea. So be honest and be clear about what was your role on the project. And this, I got this image actually from a really fun website that I found this week, which is all about design titles. So they come up with really random design titles, and I thought it's really funny. The next thing is, and probably this is the most important bit of advice that I would give to anyone, is show your passion. Do you have any hobbies, any skills that you would like to share that you think it's relevant? For example, drawing, painting, photography, illustration, lettering. Share that with us, even if that wasn't part of the projects that you have worked to that point. Because I think, and this is really, really important, I don't think your book needs to reflect just the work that you've done in the past. Your book needs to reflect the kind of work that you want to be doing in the future. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, because usually a portfolio, that people think it's a collection of work that I've done in my career. And actually, if you're trying to get a job and you're looking to move forward to the next stage of your career, for example, you need to show us what kind of work you would like to be doing. Because if you don't tell people, people won't guess what is your dream project, what would you like to be doing. And I think, and I can really say that for myself, because I have always been really passionate about lettering and type. It's not something that I'm kind of academically trained to do, but it was something that I was always passionate about. And I started doing quite a lot of, side projects and personal projects just for myself, because I felt like I needed to do that. I needed to get that passion and do something with it. And I started doing some personal stuff, and I started posting on my Instagram, and people started noticing the kind of work that I was doing. And at the time I was a senior, and my creative directors, they were like, oh, I didn't know that you could do that, or that you would be interested in doing that. And they started booking me or putting me on projects that were related to that. So they were like, well, if you want to do this, and if you're passionate about doing this, why don't you take this project? And I have to say that I was very lucky that I have worked on so many projects that I could use that skill or practice or use my passion on those kind of projects. And it got to the point that currently at Bulletproof, I I do a lot of lettering work for them, not just for the projects that I oversee, but for other clients. And it's really exciting for me because it wouldn't have happened if I just, started saying, you know what, I'm going to share this with people because I think people need to know that I want to be doing this in the future. And usually I personally get really interested when people share those kind of skills on the book as well. Because we can always see where we can take that and put that into place in the way that we work at Bulletproof.
Well, sorry,
go ahead.
So that's something I do say to creators is, don't forget you're presenting to creatives actually that might have like a love for like typography or hand lettering or all sorts of things. So yeah, I definitely agree. It's good to know that's something that you look for as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then this could seem very minor, but it's a reality. Check your spelling and then check again, because I know it's a detail, and I know, we are all humans, we all make mistakes, and that's totally fine. But the amount of books that you see, and there's so many spelling mistakes that you start getting very distracted actually, and the focus goes from the project and the ideas and the conversation to, oh my god, there's another spelling mistake there. And honestly, it's not even my first language, so you can imagine when I'm saying lots of spelling mistakes what I'm talking about. And it's just attention to detail, and I think that's really important. I think it's not so much the spelling mistake, it's the attention to detail. And as designers, the attention to detail, it's something that we are constantly looking for as well. So things like, it's totally fine, everyone does it, sending emails to lots of different agencies at the same time when you're looking for a job, when you're applying for a job. But please make sure that you have the right name of the agency on the email. It's just minor details that make a lot of difference, because the amount of things that we get, I don't know, candidates sending us emails with, I don't know, Design Bridge, for example, at the top of the email. I'm like, oh, really? You're going to always be remember like the guy who didn't get our name right, basically. So it's very important. It might sound a bit extreme, but I think it's very important. And the other thing is, CVs are really important. I really like to see CVs, to be fair, because it's almost like it's where I can find all the information about the candidates, like where do they come from, how many years of experience, where they have been. But what I would say is, don't try to be super creative with CVs, because sometimes I think people think they need to be super, super creative. And in the end, you end up with a piece of paper that is really hard to find information. So I would say keep it simple. Your creativity needs to come from the work you're sharing with me, not through this one document. I'm not going to judge your creativity on this one document. I'm going to judge your creativity on the body of work. So this needs to be very clear, very easy to navigate, essentially.
One thing I always say is, don't make people work to find you work. And if someone's got to work for it in a CV, I do agree with you about it being clean. One advice I always give is brand your CV like your portfolio, where you use the same typeface and maybe like a bit of colour here or there.
Yeah.
But other than that, just keep it really clean with CVs.
Yeah, totally. And then this is the last thing. Just reach out to people. I think you would be surprised on how helpful people can be, especially now with social media. Like I said, it's very easy to talk to people. It's very easy to send a message on Instagram. It's very easy to send a message on LinkedIn. And you would be surprised on how kind and how helpful people can be as well. I still do that. I have designers that or for example, lettering artists that I'm a big fan of their work, and they are very kind of accomplished designers. And I every now and then I send them like random messages saying, oh, I really like the book that you put out. I have this question. And surprisingly, I think the amount of times that I didn't get an answer was minimal in comparison to them, amount of people getting back to me and answering questions. And I because people do that and they're open to help, I'm always open to help as well. So if you get in touch through my Instagram, I will do my best to reply as soon as possible. Of course, we are all busy. So sometimes I do take some time to reply, but the same way that I had a lot of help and I had a lot of advice in my career, I like to, pay it forward, and I like to make sure that people are getting the same thing that I had. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, because you would be surprised how many people would reply to you, especially now. I would say I think this is something that hopefully people will learn from this situation, which is people need to be a bit kinder, right, with each other. And we are all stuck at home. Things are changing now, but we are all stuck at home. So there's no reason and there's no excuse for people to, just be kind to each other and try to help. So reach out. If there's someone that you really admire, there's no harm in just sending an email or a message on social media. And to that point, here's my Instagram. Feel free to get in touch. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn as well. I'm like I said, I'm open to answer questions. And over to you if you guys have some questions that I can help.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that presentation as well. I really enjoyed sitting through that and hearing all your advice. And it's always reassuring for me to know that what I'm telling people is correct as well.
Well, like I said, it's my point of view. It might be different for other people, but this is, I think it's a good summary of what I look for when I'm talking to people, when I'm seeing new books.
It's all pretty much the same, though, to be honest with you, across all sorts of industries like branding and advertising and integrated. There's so many common themes. So are you taking on any juniors at the moment? I appreciate it's tough at the moment, the pandemic.
I think if I give any answer on that, it's going to be pretty much like the answers that the government is giving people. It's going to be a bit like, yes, but no. The thing is, we don't know, right? We don't know what is going to happen in terms of recruitment, and it's very hard to get new people now. And it's not that we don't have work. It's more like, how do you do that, right? Culture is so important. How do you welcome someone into a company where you're not going to, for example, when we are in the studio, we have welcome breakfast. We introduce everyone. We send an email around saying, look, this person just started with us. Let's, stop by and say hi. And it's very hard to do that now. So I especially with juniors or placements, I would feel like we wouldn't be giving enough time and support for them if we hire someone and they're going to be working from home alone. But I wouldn't say it's not that's impossible. I think that we are constantly looking for new talent. We always have interns. We have a whole team, like the Fresh Meat team. They're always booking people. We constantly have someone as a placement there, if it's like for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So we always have someone there as placements. What's going to happen now, I'm not entirely sure. That's the kind of simple answer. I would like to think that we're going to be able to give back to the students somehow. Like I said, we are doing portfolio reviews and virtual chats with them. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work yet. I don't think we have that figured out until we go back to the studio and it's safe for everyone and things like that. I don't think we have that figured out yet.
Yeah, okay. So it's a bit of a watch this space and see what's going to happen, really.
Totally.
How's Bulletproof been affected by COVID at the moment?
It has been an interesting ride. I think one of the things that we learn is that we have a very strong culture, and that's come from the management team, right, from the founders. So they have been brilliant. to be fair. And I'm very grateful to be working there at this point, because especially at this point, because I think they have been brilliant. They have been totally transparent with us. We have business Q&As every 2 weeks with them, so they're giving us time to talk about what's going on and what are the plans. The thing is, the plans are changing constantly, right? We are watching the government kind of advice and everything, but because we are independent, we can kind of make our own rules as well of when we're gonna come back, if we're gonna come back, how we're gonna come back, and things like that. In terms of work, again, it has been really interesting because, for example, I think it took a couple of weeks for the clients to understand what the situation was and how things would be really, what the impact would be in their business as well. So it was quite interesting to see that we had some projects being put on hold. But at the same time, we had projects being, we had to deliver things even quicker because, for example, Meridian, that was launched last month, which is the redesign for peanut butter, and it's an amazing project. We actually had to release everything even quicker, and they brought forward the launch because everyone was stockpiling on peanut butter.
Yeah.
So they had to change all the packs really quick. So I think one of the things that we are doing is we are keeping very close to the clients. We are having lots of conversations with them in terms of how we can help each other. We are being very open. We actually got new clients coming through in the past couple of weeks, which again, you wouldn't really expect that to happen in this situation. But it has been an interesting journey. We are busy, we are working, and I think everyone is really grateful for that, and everyone is making sure that we are all focused. And I think a lot of it's a big part is the culture that we have there.
Yeah, that's quite interesting from like what I've observed as well. So some of my clients that have weathered the storm a bit better are actually doing quite well, and the ones that are more robust, and because with their competitors where they furloughed all their staff, some of them you call up and it's just a dialing tone and then it cuts out. And I know that Bulletproof made headline news with Cadbury's and all the rest of it, and so it makes sense that if you're still going, clients are going to come to you guys because the doors are still open and you can pick up work. And you haven't, I know of some agencies that panic furloughed a load of staff but then had work there, so then they're kind of scratching their heads thinking, oh goodness, like what do we do we get in freelancers? And you've got staff at home thinking, hang on a minute, we should be working on this, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern in terms of with some, for example, if we are talking about I don't know, Diageo, for example, it's a big impact on the fact that restaurants and pubs are closed, right? So it's almost giving them time as well to find out what they're going to do and how the budgets are going to work. For example, we have some projects that were related to world travel retail. Is that going to go forward? It's a big question, right? Because once airports go back to normal, are people really going to be wanting to spend time in those environments? So I think that there are projects that require a lot more thinking and from the client and from us as well, in terms of, is there anything that we can do in terms of strategic partner to change that and to change even the business model? And I think we are doing quite a lot of that as well. We are reaching out to the clients and saying, look, we can do this and we can do that, and we are coming up with ideas. So it has been very positive. And the other thing is, which, since we're talking about, you know, culture and team, we are trying to do the best that we can to make sure that everyone is doing all right, because it's not easy, right? We kind of briefly discussed this the other day. It's a massive clash of our professional lives and our personal lives into one. So I think the idea of being a good professional is changing because of this as well. There's not a single meeting that I have that there's a dog or there's a kid in the middle of the meeting, and it's fine, you know. And I think we need to learn from it, and to I think this is making everyone a lot more human. And we say that every single meeting that we have almost starts with a therapy session. It's like, how is everyone doing? Is everyone doing all right? Do you need anything? Do you want to, you know, have a coffee? Do you want to have a chat? And I think that is key for what we are doing, because we are creative people, and some people work really well when they are isolated. Some people don't, and we need to take that into consideration. But I think Bulletproof is doing a absolutely fantastic job with the team, with the projects. And I think it's down to, like I said, the culture and what we are getting from the founders, and the fact that they, and the management, and the fact that they are heavily involved on everything that's going on and being totally transparent with us.
Yeah, that's really good. This is when you see great leadership actually in times like this.
Yeah.
So have your travel plans changed as a business? Are there going to be any like international flights to clients? Have you been talking about your carbon footprint? I mean, the fact that we're all Zooming now.
Yeah.
It's going to be the new normal. Is it going to be more Zoom time?
Totally. I think, like I said, there is quite a lot of things that we need to learn from this, right? It's not trying to make a really bad situation like a romantic thing or anything like that, but we need to definitely learn from this. And we have been having quite a lot of conversations in terms of, what do you think is working in this current setup that we need to take forward, and maybe we need to change some of the ways of working. And this is really interesting as well, because this was something that they opened to everyone in the company. It doesn't matter the level or what do you do, is they basically asked us, what do you think it's working, and what we can learn from this, and what do you think we should take it forward? For example, like you said, do we really need to travel to another country for a 1 hour meeting with a client when we can do this via Zoom, for example? Do we want to print as much stuff like we used to print, because we have actually survived for the past 2 or 3 months without printing that much? So I think there's quite a lot of things that we're gonna have to learn from. Good things. A lot of people have found interesting ways of doing online workshops, for example, and what are the right tools for doing that, and does it work for you? It doesn't work for you, what we can fine tune. So I do believe, and I'm trying to be very positive about the situation, that we will learn a lot of good things about it, and it will have an impact in our industry. I actually hope there will be an impact in our industry for the better.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a real shame when you had companies like M&S removing all the plastic packaging from fruit, and now obviously because of things like the virus, they're having to re-package things up again. And I think packaging and Bulletproof as an agency has a responsibility to educate clients about more kind of things like recycling and biodegradable products. Has that been put more on the back burner now because we're in a pandemic, or is it?
It has always been part of what we have been discussing with the clients from a strategic point of view, or from the work that we are doing. So there's quite a lot of work that we do and that we present to them in terms of sustainability and how can we impact, because it's something that everyone should be thinking about, right? It's not just because of the pandemic or not. I think it's something that we should have been thinking about. It's interesting that sometimes you depending on the client, you have a lot more freedom to influence those points. Sometimes because, I don't know, the client is just too big, or the production line wouldn't allow to do something like this. But we are constantly having those discussions because it would be quite naive to think that it's not our responsibility as well, and our kind of role to somehow influence people on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So just checking in on time, should we move over to the Q&A?
Yeah.
So if you just want to start asking questions now, and we'll go through these. So the first one is about portfolio tips. So I was wondering if you could recommend to designers who've been working in UX focused field for a couple of years, but want to transition to working more with branding and packaging. Do you consider those skills relevant and transferable? That's a really good question.
Totally. I think one of the things that will happen, and we are seeing that, right, is people, at least in the past couple of months, they try to find different ways of connecting, right, and different ways of brands are looking for, if they don't have an environment or to rely on, how they're going to be connecting with the consumers. And I think that is key for when it comes to UX designers, how they can learn from it and how we can apply it to the brand. And that's I think what's going to happen with a lot of brands as well. For example, like I said, at Bulletproof, at least we are not, we do a lot of packaging work, but we don't call ourselves a packaging design agency. We deal with brands as a whole. That's where motion, for example, plays a part. And that's where, I don't know, in the future, UX design could play a part on it as well. So it's thinking about the brand holistically and not just, oh, it's packaging, oh, it's UX. So I definitely think that there are lots of skills there that could be transferable, definitely. And they're more relevant now than ever.
When someone's presenting their portfolio to you, though, and it's kind of like a UX portfolio, one thing I always advise, and let me know if this works for you guys, but try and get some self-initiated projects. You know, if you love branding and packaging, put some of that work in your folio. Be very honest that it's something that you've created and you've tried to tackle yourself. So then they can maybe see potential between those transferable skills.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and so let's go on to the next question. So if you've got like a really nice project, but it's over 10 years old, is it still relevant to put in your portfolio?
Well, the question is, do you think the project is still relevant? I think the question is for you, actually. I don't see a problem in having work in a book that is from 10 years ago, as long as it still makes sense in the current situation, right? And as long as the idea still works. We are constantly talking about timeless design, and those are the best kind of designs out there. If you manage to do something that's timeless, it will be relevant now, it will be relevant in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. So I think it's more a question to you in terms of, is it still relevant? Is it better, or does it do something different than what's out there? But I wouldn't say it's a problem just because it's 10 years old. I think the judging criteria should be slightly different, not just because it's old or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's all about how's the project aged, how's it stood the test of time, really. And some after 10 years can look incredibly fresh. So when you look for talent, either permanent or freelance, do you look for a specialist or a generalist, someone that's really good at one thing and can do other bits, or someone that's good with a bit of everything?
A bit of both, really. It depends on what stage we are and what we are looking for, what kind of projects we are working for. I for example, I believe that a good designer is able to do, it doesn't matter what category you're working for, you're able to do good design. And that's how I kind of learned. And I can do, I don't know, toilet paper, and I can do premium design. I ended up doing a bit more premium just because it was how my career developed. But I'm pretty sure I can do other things as well. And it's always good to see that people are able to do multiple things. We always ask the question, what is your preference? You know, where is your heart? in terms of what kind of projects you're working on. But it's always good to have people that can do everything. Having said that, we do have people in the agency that they are a bit more specialists in one area, or we understand that their skill sets work better for a certain kind of project or a certain kind of client, and they end up being booked especially to do that. I think when we are talking about freelancers, again, it depends as well on what we are looking for. There is the freelance that we need to get because we have a number of projects coming up and we need people working on it. Or there is one specific project that's coming up and we know that we need one specific skill set. So it really depends on what we are looking for. But I would say that, and that's the other thing that I think it's important to say, even if we are not looking to hire, we are usually open to see people and to have a conversation, because I always believe that even if you're not looking, even if you don't have an opening at the moment at the agency, if someone really good comes along, we're not going to want to miss them, you know. And so you kind of create your own place in the studio. But I don't know if I answer your question. I think it's one of those that is a bit not entirely clear, but I think both, I would say. It depends on what kind of projects we have and what's the need in that specific time.
One thing that Ben from the neighbourhood said yesterday is that when he had the neighbourhood, that you will make room for talent if you find someone that's absolutely exceptional. And I do have this with several clients that they'll say, we have to have them, we weren't hiring, but they're just going to add so much value to the team. So next question is, what kind of key skills do you look for in a senior designer, and what skills stand out?
Right, so I think that's important as well. We didn't really mention, but I think the expectations are totally different, right? Depending on the levels, of course, that's obvious. I think when we are talking about a junior designer or someone that comes straight out of uni, what we expect to see is, of course, fresh ideas, a lot of attitude, a lot of commitment, and a lot of personality. I think those are probably the main things. At Bulletproof, it doesn't matter what kind of level you are, you always get the chance of working in first stage projects. It's usually a mix of different levels. Middleweight is, of course, the one that sits in the middle. So you're developing. We could see that you could start, taking a bit more ownership on the projects. Of course, we're gonna expect a bit more from you. I think as a senior, what we like to see is definitely the ability of owning a project a lot more, being able to curate your ideas a lot more as well. So, when you get ideas from juniors, you might get some really nice, fresh ideas, but you might get things that definitely don't work. And as a senior, we expect that you are able to curate those ideas as well. So when those ideas come to get to a creative director, those are already selected, and it's not like scattergun. You already have a strategic thinking as well. I think that's really important. And essentially what we expect from a senior is that you're going to smash on every single project that you put on, that you work on. And I think that's where our expectations are in terms of a senior. That's where we're gonna put our kind of expectations in terms of that designer is the one that's going to deliver on this project. And that's what we hope that a senior can do, that he can deliver on every single project. If it's a pitch, if it's a smaller project, we do expect to see from seniors as well that they are able to start nurturing younger designers as well. We do have a mentorship scheme as well at Bulletproof. And from a senior level, you start having mentoring catch-ups with juniors or middleweights and start helping them progress as well. So I think senior is a really key point where you start to get a lot more responsibility, and it's not just about doing amazing work visually, but it's actually thinking about the strategy, the body of work that you're presenting. For example, if you're the only senior working with 2 middleweights and a junior, for example, we're going to go to you to talk about, do you think the body of work that we are presenting is good enough? So I think we put a lot of, I would say pressure, but also a lot of opportunities out there for the designers to grow and develop.
Mm. And what are your tips for beginners getting into lettering?
Just practice a lot. Like I said, I am not, when I went to uni, they kind of spoke very little about lettering. And I have the impression that there was a boom in lettering in the past 5 years or so. Mm. So there's quite a lot of people doing it now. But I think the first thing that I would say is look for good reference. Look for people that are really good, not just people that are just, posting stuff every single hour on Instagram. Look for quality. And if this person that's asking the question wants to get in touch, I can point to my favorite artists. But I would say practice a lot. Try to get a lot of books. If you're not able to do any kind of type course or anything like that, make sure that you're reading books. There's so many books really good out there now. There are a lot of online classes as well on Skillshare, Linda and things like that. There's some really good talks there as well. And practice. I think that's the biggest thing. And try to understand where lettering is useful. I think people forget that as well. And they don't realize that every single logotype that is done out there, it's a piece of lettering, right? And so the market it's massive. Every, book cover that's out there, you're probably going to get a lettering artist to do that. And a lot of people don't really understand that. So I think it's really keeping your eyes open to the possibilities of lettering as well.
Yeah. And so last question here is it generally perceived as a problem to have a graphic design portfolio with a strong style?
Tricky question.
That is a good one, isn't it?
It's a good question. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a strong style. I personally, and I don't know, people that work with me might have a different opinion, and they might see a style in the work that I do, but I don't think I have a style. Might do a little bit, because I think you need to work according to the brand need and the client needs and the briefing, not so much on your style. I think it's good to have a kind of sensibility, and like I said, everyone has their own taste and their own kind of place where they go when they have to design. But I don't really believe in when your style is so strong that every single thing that you do ends up having the same kind of face, especially in graphic design, especially when you're working with FMCG. I think that needs to be super clear. When we are talking about, for example, illustration or lettering, that's actually a really good thing to have your own personal style, because people will get to you and will hire you because of your style, essentially. But when you're working with multiple clients, for example, I was talking about the projects that I worked on, and I ended up working with a lot of premium projects like the Diageo Spirits or Green and Black Chocolate. People might say that there is a style there. I don't think there is. There is, I think, a language of premium. There is a language of how do you do craft stuff, but not necessarily a style. I would be, it's a tricky question. I would say it's good to have a style depending on where you want to go, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer, actually. Say, for instance, I've interviewed like Lou Bones, and we've spoken about like the illustration agent from Jelly.
Yeah.
And as an illustrator, that's your style, is your style, and why people book you. but as a branding, FMCG, packaging designer, it's good to have a style, but you don't want it just to be that's the only thing you really do, and that you can't be malleable. It's nice to see just
Exactly.
how your creativity can be applied across different brands. And as you say, it's just like the style can be just the execution, just the attention to detail, just all those sorts of things. But
I think that there's one thing. What I was trying to say as well is it depends what you want to do with your career. If you want to be, you know, a freelancer, working from your own studio, and that's totally fine. So maybe you're having a very strong style will be something that defines you and what you do. And agencies might come to you when they have a specific your style in mind, for example. So that might work as a designer as well. And I know a lot of really small agencies or independent graphic designers that work really well in that sense. They have a really strong style, and agencies hire them as a freelancer or a permalance because of their style. But usually, if we see a book that is just one style, is just one tone, my first reaction would be, can I use him to all the clients that we have here? And I instantly go to the list of clients that we have at the moment, and I think, well, this style is not, might not be relevant for this, it might not be relevant for that, it might be relevant for this, but we don't have enough projects on that. So I think that's where our head goes when we see someone that has a very strong style. We try to fit within the client's type that we have. It might work, it might not.
Yeah, that's often feedback I have when I submit certain designers to clients, and they'll say, lovely book,
yeah,
great for freelance, not right for us for perm.
Yeah.
So that does happen a lot. Thank you so much for your time and for delivering a really interesting talk. And thank you for everyone that's joined us today as well. Feel free to, as I said, tweet about the event, share it on Instagram, and as Vini said, to reach out on Instagram as well.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Feel free, like I said, to get in touch if you have any further questions, if anything wasn't totally clear. And I hope this was helpful.
Goodbye, everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.